Good morning. We're going to get ready for math right now. And just like we did yesterday, we're going to be reviewing for the Smarter Balance test. Today, our focus is going to be on number sense. And just like we did yesterday, we're going to start with a problem of the day. You are going to need a couple of sheets of binder paper. So please take that out right now. Put your name at the top. And you're going to be showing all of your work on your binder paper. Keep in mind, if you do not have your binder paper, you were told yesterday, if you did not have any, that you need to have it today, or I will need to be contacting your parents and let them know. You cannot keep borrowing from the same people all the time and not replacing the paper that you use. That's not fair to the individuals who keep giving paper. So take out at least 2 sheets, put your name at the top, put today's date, and put number sense. And you're going to start with the 2 division of mixed numbers that you see here. Remember yesterday when we did the division of mixed numbers, you first have to change the mixed number to an improper fraction. You're going to multiply 3 times 2, and you're going to add in the 1. You're going to multiply 4 times 5, and you're going to add in the 3. Your denominator stays the same denominator that you have here with this fraction. Multiply 5 times 3, and add in the 2. Multiply 6 times 4, and add in the 1. And again, your denominator stays the same. Okay, this will be 3, this will be 4. So I am going to have the substitute pause the video here. You are going to have 4 minutes to complete both problems, not just one, but both. Okay, and pause the video here, time them 4 minutes, and check back in at the end of 4 minutes. Okay, begin. Okay, so let's check and see how you did on this side. 3 1/2 divided by 4 3/5. You should have, it's not going to work there. There. You should have, let me take this out of the way, 7/2 divided by 23/5. Now, after you have changed to an improper fraction, your next step would have been to use the inverse of division, which is multiplication, and the reciprocal of your divisor. Instead of 23/5, you have 5/23. And your answer should be 35 over 46 or 35/46. Okay, so let's check and see how you did on your second one. Your 5 2/3 would be 17/3. 6 1/4 would be 25/4. After you change to improper fractions, you are going to change division to multiplication, use inverse operation, and use the reciprocal for the fraction on the right, or for your divisor. And when you multiply, you end up with 68/75. Okay, hopefully you got both of those. Remember, you're turning these papers in at the end of the period. So when I come back this afternoon, I'm at a meeting at the district office. I will be back later today. I will be taking your papers home to grade them so that this will count on your towards your progress report. So make sure you're completing all of your work. Come on, Bella, move. Okay, so now you have an addition problem, and you are adding 10 and 452 thousandths and 6 3/10. So pause the video here for 2 minutes, actually 1 minute and 30 seconds, and line up your decimal points and add. Okay, and you should have 16 and 752 thousandths as your decimal. Again, the important thing is lining up your decimal points. Bella, come on, go lie down. Now, take a look at the next one. This grid shows the location of these 3 points, A, B, and C. Enter the distance between points A and C. So look closely at where A is located. Look closely at where C is located. And you want to know the distance. If you were to move from A to C, how many units or how many spaces would you have to count through to get to C? So pause the video here for 45 seconds. Look closely at the screen and decide how many spaces or how many units are there between point A and point C. You are not drawing the grid on your paper. For the third one, or actually the second one, the first one that you did was your problem of the day. The second example, put 2, and you're going to write your answer. You are not taking the time to draw the grid, put the lines, and add your dots. Okay? Determine how many spaces between A and C. Pause the video here for 45 seconds and check back in. Okay, so let's see how many. If I start here at A, I'm going to count over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have to move 6 units from A to C. The other way you could think about this is I'm going to add the absolute value of -4 and the absolute value of 2. That's what this item is really testing. The absolute value of -4 is 4. The absolute value of 2 is 2. 4 plus 2 is 6. And that's how many spaces we counted. That's what your answer should be. Moving on to the next one. Consider the points plotted on the number line shown. So you have -3, -2, -1. You have A located here. B, C, and D is on the other side of 0 between these 2 numbers here. Consider the statements in the table shown. Select true or false for each statement about the number line. So in case you can't read these too well on the video, I'm going to read them, and then I'm going to direct you back to your number line to be able to answer if they're true or false. The value of point A is greater than -2. Point A is on a line between -2 and -1. The value of point B is greater than the value of point C. B is to the left of 0. C is to the right of 0. And the statement is B is greater than, the value of B is greater than the value of C. The value of point D is less than 2 3/4. 2 3/4. Here's 2, here's 3, is less than 2 3/4. Your number line is divided into fourths. Here's 2. This is in the middle between 2 and 3. This is saying the value of D is less than 2 3/4. So pause the video here. Take a minute and a half to consider each of the statements and decide if it is true or false. And then check back in when the minute and 30 seconds is up. Okay, so now the value of point A is greater than -2. Here's -2. Greater than. Well, remember we talked about negative numbers. The further away you get from 0, the less value your integer or your negative number has. So point A is in between -1 and -2. The value of point A is greater than -2. This is closer to 0. That's a true statement. The value of point B is greater than the value of point C. Well, this is 1/4. This is -1/4. The value of B is greater than the value of C. No, it is not. The value of point D is less than 2 3/4. Well, this is 2 2/4 or 2 1/2. So is 2 1/2 less than 2 3/4? Yes, it is. Okay, hopefully you had those same answers. Remember, when you see something that has a number line and a chart, you are not drawing the chart, you are not drawing the number line. You are just recording your answers. Moving on to the next one. Select all ordered pairs that are located in the third quadrant of the coordinate grid. Okay, if this were the coordinate grid, this is quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4. I want you to talk with the person you're sitting next to. If you do not have anyone next to you, you are not getting out of your seat and moving unless you were told to do so. So don't start looking around and wandering the room saying, I'm looking for a partner. If the substitute does not tell you to move, you think about this on your own. Okay? No one is out of their seat without permission. So check all the ordered pairs that are located in the third quadrant, in this quadrant of the coordinate grid. So one of the things you should be talking with your partner about is what are the values of the points in quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then compare that to the items that you have here. Take 2 minutes to discuss what the values of the ordered pairs in each quadrant are, and what are the values in quadrant 3, and then check back in so we can see how you did. Pause here, check back in 2 minutes. Go. Okay, well, I'm looking at quadrant 1, and my X is going to the right of 0 and above 0. So my values in this quadrant are positive and positive. My X is to the left of 0. My Y is above 0. The values here are negative. X is negative, Y is positive. My x-axis is still to the left of 0. My y-axis is below 0. My values here are x is negative, y is negative. And my x-axis is to the right of 0, but my y-axis is below. So x is positive, y is negative. This is what I'm looking for. So the only items that have x as negative, y as negative are the second and the fourth. So what you should be writing on your paper, if you have not already done so, is the ordered pairs that would fit in quadrant 3. Okay, so double check and see what you have down for your answers. And we're going to continue. Okay, on to the next item. I also want to mention we're going to be working on this through math and science, just like we did yesterday. You are just about a week, 2 weeks away from the Smarter Balance test. So we're going to be maximizing all of the time that we have to make sure that you are as prepared as possible for this test. Okay? So now, consider the statements shown in the table. Select true or false for each statement. The distance between -3 and 1700ths and 0 on a number line is the absolute value of -3 and 1700ths units. On a number line, the absolute value of 7 and 2900ths and -7 and 2900ths are the same point. The distance from -5 and 2800ths to 0 is the same as the distance from 5 and 2800ths to 0 on the number line. And you need to decide, are these true or false statements? Notice these are saying distance. This is saying the same point. So have that conversation with your partner. Consider all 3 items. Talk with your partner about if they're true or false. And you are going to number these, because I do not want you spending your time writing all the sentences. This is A, B, and C. And on your binder paper, you're going to put A and either true or false, B and either true or false, C and either true or false. Okay, so pause the video here. Take 2 minutes to discuss what you think your answers are. Write down A and either true or false. And the same thing for B and C. Pause here, check back in 2 minutes. Go. Okay, so now the distance between -3 and 1700ths and 0 on a number line is the absolute value. Keep in mind I'm drawing using the keypad. So if it looks kind of like not a straight line, that's why. So here's -3 and 1700ths. Here's 0. The distance between this and 0 is the absolute value of 3 and 1700 units. Well, absolute value is the distance from 0 on a number line. So is this and the absolute value of this number the same? Yes. On a number line, 7 and 2900ths, here's 0. So I'm going to put 7 and 2900ths. And -7 and 2900ths are the same point. Well, they're the same distance from 0, but they are not the same point. The distance from negative, let me change this here, use the same number line, -5 and 2800ths is to 0 is the same as the distance from 5 and 2800ths to 0 on the number line. So here's 5 and 2800ths. Oops. I'll make this a 5. 5 and 2800ths. So the distance from -5 to 0 and 5 to 0, 5 and 2800ths and 5 and 2800ths. The distance to 0 is the same. Yes. On to the next one. The equation shown has an unknown number. Blank divided by 3/7 equals 7/15. So, some number or some fraction divided by 3/7 equals 7/15. Enter a fraction that makes this equation true. Well, think about how you check division when you're using whole numbers. How would you check this to find out what your missing fraction is? Talk with the person next to you. Have a conversation. Take about 3 minutes. Okay? I'm sure you're going to look at this and go, oh, I remember we did this earlier in the year. But have that conversation. See if you can think about how you would work to, or what you would do to find your answer. Okay? And then check back in. Okay, so let's see how you did. If I have some number divided by 3/7 and it equals 7/15, well, if I work backwards, I'm going to look at 3/7 times 7/15. I'm sorry, Make that a little bit better. Okay? Well, 3 times 7 is 21. 7 times 15 is 105. Well, I know I can reduce 21 and 105, and I could use 7, but I'm going to think, would 21 also work? And it would. 21 goes into 21 one time. 21 goes into 105 5 times. If I had reduced using 7, I would have 7 35ths. 7 35ths can be reduced again to 1/5. So if you did not realize you could reduce with 21, but you reduced using, actually you would have used 3 to reduce, and then you could reduce again using 7. If you didn't realize you could do that, then you would have reduced more than once. But now, to check and see if in fact this equation works, you're going to plug the 1/5 back in. So if I have 1/5 divided by 3/7, I'm going to use inverse operation. 1/5 times 7/3. 1 times 7 is 7. 5 times 3 is 15. And I did, in fact, take this out so you can see the equals. Plug it back in, and my equation works. So the fraction that makes the equation true is 1/5. And we did it by working backwards and then plugging in the answer to make sure that, in fact, our answer was correct. Moving on to the next one. Robin needs to determine the number of 2/5 pound servings in 4 2/5 pounds of fish. He calculates that there are 11 servings. Is Robin's calculation correct? Why or why not? The why or why not means you're going to be also writing an explanation. Okay? So, 2/5 pound servings in 4 2/5 pounds of fish. Which one of these statements would be correct, and why or why not? Pause the video here. Take about 2.5 minutes. See if you can reword the question. Okay, if I have 4 2/5 pounds of fish, how many 2/5 servings would I have in it? And calculate your answers. Okay, pause the video here. Take about 2.5 minutes and then check back in. Okay, so let's check and see what you came up with. If I reword this and say, how many groups of 2/5 would be in 4 2/5. I would be dividing. So if I have 4 2/5 divided by 2/5, this is going to be 22/5 times 5 halves. Well, I'm going to look at reducing my 5s, and actually I can reduce 2 and 22. So the 5s are going to reduce to 1. 2 and 22 are going to reduce to 11 and 1. And my answer is, when I multiply 11 times 1 and 1 times 1, 11. So, yes, Robin is correct. This, if you multiply this, you would have 22/5 times 2/5. 22 times 2 is 44. 5 times 5 is 25. You would not get 11. Okay, and if you go through this one here, clearly they made a mistake with their division, and the only correct answer you have is B. You could also draw out, if you wanted to create a diagram and create 4 bars divided into fifths, and then 1, I'm not going to draw them all. I'm going to imagine those are drawn into fifths, and then I have another one with 2/5. And then you're taking 2/5 groups and you're counting. How many groups of 2/5 do you have? You will see that you have 11. Okay? On to the next one. Oops, I think I went backwards. There. Divide 68,302 by 1,000. Enter the exact quotient. So pause the video here. You can check your answer after if you want, or you can just work alone. But you are now dividing. Okay? And come up with your answer. So pause the video here. Take 2 minutes and then check back in. Okay? So if you have 68 and 302 thousandths, you have a correct answer. Okay, you could have divided or if you were using your number sense and you realized, if I'm dividing and I'm dividing by 1,000, I can, because your decimal point is here, tenths, hundredths, thousandths. Move your decimal point 3 places to the left, and you have your answer. So whether you divided it all the way out or you realized that you were dealing with powers of 10, and you could have moved your decimal point, your answer would still be the same. On to the next one. On a horizontal number line, negative 43 is located to the left of negative 35. Enter an inequality. We worked on this before vacation. An inequality that represents this statement. Negative 43 is located to the left of negative 35. Take about 45 seconds. Check with your partner. Remember, an inequality means greater than or less than. And if you wanted to write an inequality explaining the statement, what would that look like? 45 seconds. Pause the video briefly, and then check back in. Okay, well, if I know that the further I get from 0, the less value the number has, I can look at negative 43 and know that negative 43 is less than negative 35. And I have no doubt you came up with the same statement. So now on to the next one. One half of a watermelon is divided equally among 6 people at a picnic. Enter the fraction of a watermelon that each person gets. You have half of a watermelon, and you want to get 6 equal amounts out of that. What would your answer be? Pause the video here. Take 1 minute and 30 seconds. Decide how you're going to work that out and come up with your answer. Ready? Pause the video and go. Okay, so we need a fraction of a watermelon that each person gets. Well, if I have half a watermelon, that's the full amount that I have, and I want to divide it equally among 6 people. I want to know how many equal groups of 6 will I get from the half watermelon. So you're going to have 1/2 divided by 6. I want 6 equal servings. You're going to use the inverse of division, which is multiplication, and I'm going to use the reciprocal for 6, which is 1/6. And each person will get 1/12 of a watermelon. Remember, when you're putting this in on the Smarter Balance test, you're going to use the equation editor, and you're going to use the fraction option to write 1/12 as your fraction. Okay? Now, enter the least common multiple of 10 and 12. We did this work earlier in the year. You can do prime factorization to find the least common multiple. Okay, so now I can pull out the prime factors. 2 goes into 10 5 times. 2 goes into 12 6 times. Is there any other prime factor I can pull out? And there is not. So now I'm going to multiply 2. And I'm going to multiply 5 times 6. Or actually, I'm going to multiply 5 times 6, get 30, and multiply that by 2. And my least common multiple is 60. If you were to write the multiples of 10, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and write the multiples of 12, 12, 24, 36, 48, 60, you're still going to get the same answer. Okay, remember, it doesn't make any difference which way you solve it, as long as you come up with the least common multiple. Okay, so now we have a subtraction of decimal problems, or problem. And you're going to subtract 26 and 200ths from 5 and 348 thousandths. Pause the video here. Work on this individually and then check your answer with the person next to you. Okay, pause the video here. Take about a minute and 30 seconds and then check back in. Okay, so I have 26 and 200ths. I'm subtracting 5 and 348 thousandths. Let me rewrite that too so it's clearly over the 4. Now, you are going to need to add another 0. And remember, you line up your decimal points. So I can't have 0 and subtract 8. So you know you're going to regroup. 2. And again, I have 1. I cannot take 4 away if all I have is 1. This is a 0. I can't do anything there, but I can regroup this way. Now, 11 subtract 4, you have 7. 9 subtract 3, you have 6. Bring down your decimal point. 5 subtract 5, and you have your answer. Hopefully, yours matches what I have here. And you remembered to line up your decimal points. Okay, on to the next one. This table shows temperature in some cities recorded on a day. Determine whether each statement about the temperature is correct. Select true or false for each statement. Hamilton, city of Hamilton, has a higher temperature than Toronto because minus 22 and 3/10 Celsius is greater than negative 24 and 9/10 Celsius. So you're comparing these two temperatures. Sydney's temperature is further from 0 than Rome's temperature. Here's Sydney's temperature. Here's Rome's temperature. Further from 0 is what they're saying. Rome has a lower temperature than Toronto because 10 and 8/10 Celsius is closer to 0 than 24 and 9/10 Celsius. So consider the chart, consider the temperatures and what they're asking. And again, we're going to do this like we did the other one. You're not writing the whole sentences. A, B, and C. And you're going to record A, B, or C, and C, all three of them, and you're going to indicate it's either true or false. Take 2 minutes, consider the chart, consider the statements, and decide if they're true or false. Pause the video here for 2 minutes and check back in after. Okay, so again, I should draw my number line the other way because we're talking about temperature. So I should draw my number line this way. And here's 0. And I'm just going to put the whole numbers. -22, -24. And this statement is Hamilton has a higher temperature than Toronto because this temperature is greater than this temperature. Again, the further away from 0, the less value. So that is a true statement. Now we're looking at Sydney's temperature. And the statement is Sydney's temperature is further from 0 than Rome. Sydney has 32. Rome has 10. And Sydney's temperature is further from 0 than Rome's temperature. They're not asking if it's greater or less than. Further from 0 than Rome's temperature. So here's 0, here's 10, here's 32. Is it further? Is it more spaces from 0? Yes, it is. Rome has a lower temperature than Toronto because 10 and 8/10 Celsius is closer to 0 than -24 and 9/10 Celsius. Has a lower temperature. So if I have a temperature that is 10 degrees and I have another temperature that is -24 degrees, this is saying which one is going to be colder, a lower temperature. Okay, so this is above 0, this is below 0. That is not a true statement. And this should be, I should have also erased the last one that we have here. A pitcher is half full of juice. A serving of juice is 1/8 of the pitcher. Enter the number of servings of juice that are in the pitcher. So the pitcher is half full. A serving is 1/8. How many 1/8 servings would you have in 1/2 is what they're asking. Pause the video here. Take about 2 minutes to work with your partner and decide what the answer should be. Okay, pause and come back in 2 minutes. Okay, so let's check and see what you think the answer should be. I want to know how many equal amounts of 1/8 is there in 1/2? So 1/2 divided by 1/8. I'm going to change division to multiplication. 1/2 times 8/1. I can reduce and I end up with 4/1 or 4. I could also draw a double number line. Here is 1/2, and I'm going to divide this into 8ths. There's 1/8. There's 2/8. It's 3/8. And there's 4/8. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, which is the same thing I got when I divided. So the number of servings of juice, 4 servings that are in the pitcher. I'm not sure what the time is right now, if you're almost to the end of the science period. If there is still time in science, I want you to take out your AR book and read silently, not talking. You're going to turn your paper in with all 15 examples worked out on it, and that's going to be your credit for math and also your credit for science. Okay? So I will see you later.